All right, get ready because we are going deep on this one. Diving into Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki.
Oh, yeah, this one's a classic. It's been, what, like 25 years since this book came out?
1997. So, yeah, about 25 years.
Wow.
But it's still so relevant today. You know, it's not just about getting rich.
Right.
It's about really changing how we think about money, challenging all those money lessons we kind of grew up with. You know, the ones we got from our parents, from school.
Yeah, like get good grades so you can get a good job, that whole
You
idea.
study hard, get a secure job, buy a house. That's the classic recipe, right?
Right.
But Kiyosaki, he kind of throws a wrench in that whole thing.
He flips the script big time.
He really does. And he does it by sharing these stories about his own life. He had two father figures, right?
Yeah, his biological dad
Mm-hmm.
and then his friend's dad, who he calls his rich dad.
And they both had completely different approaches to money. His poor dad was highly educated.
A PhD, I said.
Yeah, PhD. But he struggled financially his whole life.
Worked hard his whole life.
Worked hard. Steady job, but never really got ahead. Always worried about money.
Always.
Then you have his rich dad, who was a self-made entrepreneur, dropped out of school in 8th grade,
Wow.
built this incredible business empire, and he taught Kiyosaki a totally different set of rules about money.
It's so fascinating how those two contrasting perspectives shaped his whole view of money.
Totally. Like his poor dad was all about job security, getting that steady paycheck.
Safety and security.
Right. While his rich dad was like, no, you need to build assets. You need to have money working for you.
And that's the key takeaway, isn't it? So many people are just stuck in that rat race.
Rat race, yeah.
Working for money, paying bills, never getting ahead. Rich dad, poor dad. It's like a wake-up call. It's like, hey, there's a different way to play this game.
Exactly. And Kiyosaki illustrates this so well with the story about working for his rich dad as a kid.
Oh, yeah. Tell me about that one.
He was making like 10 cents an hour doing menial tasks.
Wow.
And at first he was like, this is ridiculous. I'm working so hard for nothing.
Yeah, you'd think, right. I'm getting ripped off.
Right. But his rich dad was like, no, this is a lesson. It was about understanding how we're conditioned to trade our time for money,
Even if it's a tiny amount.
even if it's nothing, instead of finding ways to create our own wealth.
That's such a powerful lesson.
Isn't it? It really gets you thinking, like, are we just selling our hours away,
Our precious time.
precious time, or can we create something that generates income without us constantly having to trade our time for it?
And that brings us to, I think, one of the core principles of the book. The difference between assets and liabilities.
Yes. And this is where things get really interesting because Kiyosaki kind of turns the traditional definitions on their head.
He flips the script again.
He does. It's not just about what you own, it's about the cash flow. Where is the money going?
That's the question.
So according to Kiyosaki, an asset puts money in your pocket,
Okay.
while a liability takes money out.
And this applies to, like, everything. Your house, your car.
Everything, even your investments.
I'm starting to see where he's going with this. It's about, like, is this thing generating income for me or is it costing me money?
Exactly. And he uses his own house as an example.
Really?
Yeah, he argued with his poor dad about this. His
Right.
poor dad was like, our house, this is our biggest asset.
Which is what most people think, right?
Right. It's the
Yeah.
American dream, right? Own a home. But Kiyosaki breaks it down. He's like, look at all the expenses.
The mortgage, property taxes.
All of it. Repairs, maintenance. It's constantly draining money.
So it's actually a liability.
In Kiyosaki's view, yes. Because it's taking money out of your pocket every month instead of having that money work for you elsewhere.
Wow, I never thought about it like that.
It's a different way of looking at things, right?
It really is. And it makes you question a lot of those, like, traditional financial truths we've been taught.
Exactly. And that's what makes Rich Dad, Poor Dad so thought-provoking.
So if we're not supposed to just focus on income from a job, what should we be doing?
Well, Kiyosaki's answer is pretty simple, but it's powerful. He says, mind your own business.
Mind your own business. What does that even mean?
Now, he's not saying quit your job tomorrow and, like, become an entrepreneur overnight.
Okay, good.
What he means is start building an asset column, investments that generate income,
Wink.
real estate,
Okay.
stocks, or even starting a side hustle that could maybe eventually become a full-fledged business.
So it's about, like, creating multiple streams of income.
Yes.
Mhm.
Streams of income that don't rely solely on you trading your time for money.
I like that. And he gives an example of this, right, with Ray Kroc,
Yes. Ray Kroc, the founder of McDonald's.
the hamburger guy.
Right. But when someone asked him what business he was really in, you know what he said?
What'd he say?
The real estate business?
Whoa.
He understood that the real value of those McDonald's franchises was tied to the land they were built on.
Smart guy.
So he wasn't just selling burgers, he was building a real estate empire.
Wow. I never thought about it like that.
And Kiyosaki, he wants us to think that way too, to look for opportunities to build assets that generate income.
Instead of just, working for a paycheck.
Exactly. It's about shifting our focus from the income statement to building that asset column.
Because that's how you break free from the rat race, right?
That's how you achieve financial freedom.
Okay, I'm starting to see the light here.
Mm.
Building assets, minding your own business.
Mm.
But how do we actually do that? Like, what are some tangible steps?
Well, one thing Kiyosaki talks about is learning to invent money.
Invent money. Now, that sounds interesting.
It does, right. But we'll dive into that after a quick break.
Okay, so we're back, and we're talking about inventing money. I'm intrigued. What does that even mean?
Right. It sounds kind of crazy, but when Kiyosaki says invent money, he doesn't mean we're literally printing cash, right?
No, I hope not.
It's more about using your financial intelligence, your creativity, to spot opportunities that other people miss. It's about using your knowledge to kind of create wealth.
Okay, so less about get-rich-quick schemes, more about using your smarts to make savvy decisions.
Exactly. And he gives this really interesting example in the book about buying this rundown house for like $20,000, fixing it up a bit, and then selling it for $60,000. He basically created $40,000 out of thin air.
Okay, but that sounds a bit risky, doesn't it? What if you lost money on that deal?
That's where the knowledge and the research come in. Kiyosaki emphasizes that this isn't about gambling. It's about calculated risks. It's about understanding market trends, knowing how to spot a good deal, having the skills to renovate a property.
So it's not just about luck. It's about having the knowledge to identify and capitalize on opportunities.
Right. And this ties into another big point he makes in the book, which is the importance of overcoming obstacles. He actually identifies 5 main roadblocks that keep people stuck in that rat race.
A rat race, yeah. We've got to get out of that thing.
We do. So the 5 obstacles are fear, cynicism, laziness, bad habits, and arrogance.
Oh, those are some tough ones.
They are, right. And fear is a huge one, I think, especially when it comes to money, like the fear of losing money.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one for me. I'm always so scared of making a bad investment.
I get it.
Yeah.
But Kiyosaki argues that most people are so afraid of making a mistake, of losing money, that they just play it safe. And then they miss out on huge opportunities for growth.
So it's like that fear actually holds you back.
It totally does. He uses this great analogy about professional golfers. They don't see losing a game as a failure,
Right.
They see it as a chance to learn to improve their game.
So it's about like reframing your thinking about failure.
Exactly. See setbacks as learning experiences.
That's a good way to look at it.
Right.
And it's not just fear, right? You said there were 5 obstacles.
Right. We've got cynicism, that it's all rigged mentality.
Oh, I know people like that.
Huh?
Always complaining that the system is against them.
And that can be really blinding, right? It can prevent you from seeing opportunities. Then there's laziness and bad habits. Those can stop us from taking action.
Procrastination is my downfall.
And then arrogance. That can prevent us from seeking advice and learning from others.
So it's as much about mindset as it is about knowledge.
Absolutely. You have to have the right attitude, the willingness to learn and grow.
Okay, so how do we cultivate that mindset? Where do we even begin?
Kiyosaki has some great advice on this.
Hmm.
First, he says, find a mentor. Someone who's already where you want to be financially. Think about someone you admire who's achieved financial success. Could they be your mentor? Could you reach out to them, ask them for advice, learn from their experience?
That's a good idea. I've never really thought about finding a mentor, but it makes sense. And what else?
Another key takeaway is stop doing what's not working.
Oof, that one hits home.
Right. If you're stuck in a job you hate or your investments aren't performing well, don't be afraid to change course. Try something new.
Easier said than done, though, right? It's easy to just stay stuck in a rut.
I know. It takes courage to make a change. But that's where paying yourself first comes in.
Paying yourself first, what does that mean?
So if you're constantly struggling to make ends meet, it can feel impossible to save or invest.
Right, totally.
But Kiyosaki says, pay yourself first. Set aside a portion of your income before you pay any bills, even if it's a small amount. Shift your priorities. Instead of waiting until all the bills are paid and hoping there's something left over, make saving and investing a non-negotiable part of your budget.
So it's about, like, building that habit of saving, that discipline.
Exactly. And he also talks about the importance of surrounding yourself with a team of smart advisors, people who can offer guidance on investing, real estate, taxes, all those areas where you might need some expertise.
So it's like building a support system for your financial journey.
Exactly. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here, but I want to circle back to something we touched on earlier, the concept of corporations and taxes. Kiyosaki has some, let's say, unconventional views on this, right?
He does. And this is where things can get a little controversial. But it's definitely important to understand his perspective. He argues that the rich, they don't play by the same rules as the poor and middle class when it comes to taxes.
Okay, I'm listening.
They use corporations to legally minimize their tax burden. So he's not saying to evade taxes, but rather to understand the legal structures that wealthy people use to protect their assets and reduce their tax liability.
It's about being financially savvy, right? Using the same tools that are available to everyone.
Exactly. And he points out that corporations aren't just for big businesses. Individuals can incorporate as well to gain tax advantages and protect their personal assets.
It's like a whole other level of minding your own business.
Right. And it gets to the heart of his argument that employees are essentially working for everyone but themselves. They're working for the company, the government through taxes, and the bank through mortgage payments.
It's like your paycheck is sliced and diced before you even see it.
Yeah, it can feel like that sometimes. But by understanding how to use corporations strategically and building an asset column that generates income, we can start directing more of that cash flow back into our own pockets.
Taking control of our financial destiny.
Yes, not just being a cog in the system.
Okay, so we've talked about minding your own business, building assets, and even incorporating Barrisons. But what about investing? Where does that fit into the picture?
Well, Kiyosaki believes that investing is crucial for building long-term wealth. But he emphasizes that it's not just about picking stocks or mutual funds. It's about understanding how money works and developing your financial intelligence.
He even created a board game, right? Cash Flow, I think it's called.
Yeah, I've heard of that. It's supposed to be really fun and educational.
It's all about teaching people about cash flow, assets, liabilities, and the difference between the rat race and the fast track.
The fast track. That's where we want to be.
Exactly. And the fast track, it's all about building assets that generate passive income. So you're not trading your time for money, but rather having your money work for you.
That sounds like the dream.
It is. And Kiyosaki stresses that financial intelligence is about having more options, being able to create opportunities, even in challenging economic times.
So it's about being adaptable, being able to pivot when things change.
Exactly. He even shares that story again about how he invented $40,000 by flipping that foreclosed house. And he breaks it down, showing how he used his knowledge of real estate, financing, and market trends to create value and make a profit.
It's a great illustration of how inventing money isn't about magic or get-rich-quick schemes. It's about using your financial intelligence to spot undervalued assets and create win-win deals.
So it's not about waiting for some lucky break. It's about developing the skills and knowledge to create your own opportunities.
Right. And this all circles back to the importance of overcoming those 5 major obstacles we talked about. Fear, cynicism, laziness, bad habits, and arrogance can all prevent us from achieving financial success.
But if we can overcome those roadblocks, we can open ourselves up to a world of possibilities.
Absolutely. And one of the best ways to do that is to find mentors and build a supportive network of people who believe in your goals.
Because let's be real, there will always be naysayers, people who doubt your dreams or tell you it can't be done.
Ugh, I know the type.
But Kiyosaki encourages us to tune out those chicken littles and surround ourselves with people who inspire us and support our vision.
It's about choosing your influences wisely.
Exactly. He tells this great story about a friend who bought a vacation property based on his advice, but then panicked and sold it at a loss just 2 weeks later because he listened to people who doubted the investment.
Oh, that's so frustrating.
It is. It's a reminder that we need to be discerning about who we listen to and to trust our own gut instincts, especially when it comes to our finances.
Trust your gut. I like that. And what about financial advisors? Does Kiyosaki recommend working with them?
He does. He emphasizes the importance of finding a good financial advisor or broker who understands your goals and can help you make informed decisions. But he also cautions against blindly trusting anyone with your money. He encourages us to do our own research, to educate ourselves about financial matters so we can make informed decisions.
So it's about being an active participant in your financial journey, not just handing over the reins to someone else.
Exactly. It's about taking ownership of your financial future. And he also stresses the importance of taking action, even if it's just starting small. Remember, profit is made when you buy, not when you sell. So don't be afraid to make offers and negotiate deals.
It's about being proactive, Not waiting for opportunities to fall into your lap.
Exactly. And once you start taking action, you'll be amazed at the opportunities that start to present themselves. It's about getting out there, getting your hands dirty, and really creating something for yourself.
It's about taking control.
Exactly. And Kiyosaki also talks about, the importance of self-discipline, especially when it comes to paying yourself first. Remember that concept we discussed?
Yeah, setting aside money for savings and investments before anything else. It's like putting your future self at the top of your priority list.
Right. And he talks about finding something for nothing in every investment. He's not talking about being unethical or anything.
Right, right.
It's more about looking for those added perks or benefits that can sweeten the deal.
Oh, okay. Like what?
Like, he gives an example of buying a property that came with some extra vacant lots that he was then able to sell off for a profit. So it's about being creative, looking for those hidden opportunities within a deal.
Interesting. So it's like a bonus hidden in plain sight?
Exactly. And speaking of bonuses, Kiyosaki also talks about the power of choosing heroes and mentors who inspire you.
Yeah, like who?
He suggests studying the strategies of successful investors like Warren Buffett
Okay.
or Donald Trump, people who have built empires.
So it's about finding role models who embody the financial principles you admire, learning from their approaches.
Right. It's like having a roadmap to success, but you still got to do the driving.
We got to put in the work.
And Kiyosaki also talks about the importance of teaching and giving back, the idea that generosity can often lead to unexpected rewards.
It's not just about accumulating wealth, but about using it to make a positive impact.
Exactly. He shares personal stories about how he's benefited from sharing his knowledge with others and how he's been helped by those who are willing to teach him.
It's that whole pay it forward concept.
Right, creating a cycle of abundance.
So, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, it's more than just a financial guidebook, isn't it?
It's kind of like a philosophy for living a more fulfilling and impactful life.
That's a great way to put it.
Well, I gotta say, this deep dive into Rich Dad, Poor Dad has been amazing. It's really made me rethink some of my own beliefs about money, and it's given me so many new ideas for building wealth.
Me too. It's definitely a book that makes you think differently about money.
And you know what really stood out to me? Kiyosaki's emphasis on mindset. He talks about how our don't wants, those things we really want to avoid, can actually be powerful motivators.
That's interesting. Can you explain that?
Sure. He gives the example of not wanting to work for someone else's entire life, not wanting to be trapped by a job, not wanting to see his hard-earned money go primarily to the government. And these don't wants, they fueled his desire to create financial freedom, to build his own asset column.
So it's like using those negative feelings as fuel to propel you towards positive change.
Yes. It's about channeling that frustration or fear into action, into creating a life that aligns with your values and aspirations.
I love that.
Uh,
And
well-
he also makes the point that financial education doesn't have to be expensive.
Right. There are so many resources available: books, seminars, online courses, even free workshops at the library.
You just have to be willing to seek them out.
He tells a story about attending a 3-day seminar on real estate investing for $385, and that investment ultimately earned him millions.
Wow. Talk about a return on investment.
It really shows that knowledge is power, and investing in yourself, in your financial education, can pay off big time.
Absolutely. So to wrap things up, what would you say are some of the key takeaways from Rich Dad, Poor Dad?
Well, for me, it's all about taking control of your financial destiny. It's about shifting your mindset from being a consumer to becoming an investor, from working for money to having your money work for you.
As Kiyosaki says, the choice is ultimately ours. Every day, with every dollar we spend, save, or invest, we decide whether we'll be rich, poor, or middle class.
So the question for our listeners is, what will you choose? What is one small step you can take today to start minding your own business and building your asset column?
Remember, financial freedom is achievable. It just takes the right knowledge, mindset, and actions.
That's a great note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep striving for financial freedom.